Raised among the Tusken Raiders by his father, the infamous Jedi Knight Sharad Hett, Sharad grew into a fierce young warrior being trained by both his clan and his father. However, when their exploits became more and more well known, they were brought to the attention of the Jedi. The Council dispatched Ki-Adi-Mundi to make sure neither of the Hetts were a threat. At this time, a brutal attack was waged by the Hutt's raiders led by Aurra Sing, who killed Sharad. Ki-Adi would go on to take Sharad as his apprentice and complete his training as a Jedi Knight. When the Clone Wars broke out, Hett became a general like most of the Order, and led forces to many victories. Hett was one of the few to survive Order 66. Eventually making his way to Korriban, Hett fell to the dark side and dedicated himself to the teachings of Zozar, one of the ancient Dark Jedi exiles who came to Korriban millennia earlier. Later being captured by the Yuuzhan Vong, Hett was subject to horrific forms of torture. After escaping, he took up the name Darth Krayt, creating the new One Sith Order and plunged the galaxy into chaos, before finally meeting his end at the hands of the young Cade Skywalker. The former apprentice of the Jedi spy master Thom and the master of the famed Jedi Knight Aayla Secura, Quinlan Vos lived and trained as a Jedi during the decades leading to the Clone Wars. During his career, he defeated the legendary Dark Jedi Vulfe Karko in live combat. When the Clone Wars broke out, Vos served as a double agent and infiltrated Count Dooku's inner circle, eventually falling to the dark side as he committed horrid acts in order to gain the Count's trust. Vos eventually redeemed himself, slaying the Dark Jedi Sora Bulk and reaffirming his loyalty to the Jedi Order. When Order 66 was issued, Vos was among Masters Yoda and Luminara Unduli on Kashyyyk. Narrowly surviving attacks from his former troops, Quinlan would go on to marry and raise a child, fading away into obscurity. While he was raised as a Tusken, physically, Sharad Hett was human. Due to him being born in 47 BBY, this would make him approximately 28 years of age at the time of Revenge of the Sith, which is the period for which I will be judging both of these combatants. Sharad possessed well-developed speed, agility, and strength, though nothing beyond the level typically attained by trained Force sensitives. While his best demonstrations of physical hardiness weren't shown until later years, Hett was still incredibly resilient. As a young man, he managed life in the harsh Tatooine deserts, and was even able to participate in the ritual of slaying a Krayt dragon at a very young age. Quinlan Vos was a Mayo Kiffer, and due to him being a contemporary of Obi-Wan Kenobi, this would put him roughly at 38 years of age at the time of Revenge of the Sith. Vos would sport a muscular build, well-developed agility, and was known to be incredibly resilient. He has been on the receiving end of numerous physical and mental torture sessions. At the start of the Great Jedi Purge, he endured a tank explosion. Vos could not simply be beaten into a submission. It's a killing blow or nothing. Both individuals are extremely fit combatants and both are incredibly resilient. While Quinn is physically stronger, it's not something that Sharad isn't able to deal with. I declare both combatants equal in terms of physicality. Sharad Hett was a talented lightsaber duelist even at a young age thanks to his very intense training. His preferred lightsaber form was Naiman, the sixth form of lightsaber combat. Naiman was a style that took bits and pieces from all previous styles, with a heavy focus on moderation and balance. A core element of the Naiman style is training in chaining force-based attacks into its attack sequences, which Hett has demonstrated some skills in, as well as applying physical strikes into his fighting methods. Naiman was also a gateway for Jarkai dual-blade fencing, which was Hett's preferred fighting style, though it should be noted he was still more than capable with a single saber. He was also skilled in blast deflection as well as being a capable marksman. In a notable deviation from the norm, however, Hett would fight very aggressively, sometimes letting his anger get the better of him, though not quite to the extent of someone like Exar Kun. Despite this, Hett was still a skilled duelist and a formidable combatant, having defeated the notorious bounty hunter Aurra Sing and held his own against the renowned Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Quinlan Vos was a highly skilled duelist and had a variety of styles at his disposal. He was a master of both Form 4 Ataru and Form 5, specifically the Shien variant. Ataru was a highly offensive form with a heavy focus on speed and agility. Its focus on being to use the entire body as a weapon. In keeping with this, Quinlan was a highly skilled unarmed combatant and routinely applied punches and kicks into his lightsaber sequences, He was also skilled at chaining force-based attacks into his attack patterns. Ataru is also known to provide training in dual-blade fencing, which Quinlan has also demonstrated some skill in. Form 5 on the other hand was created as an answer to Form 3's lack of offense, with a focus on defense and immediate counterattack. It had two variations, Shien and Gemso. Shien focused on blast deflection, but rather than harmlessly deflecting bolts to the side, Shien focused on aiming bolts back at the shooter. Quinlan's skill in Shien is shown through his skills in blast deflection, as well as his almost constant use of the reverse grip tailored to the style. During his time under Dooku, Vos did receive some minor training in Makashi, the dueling-centric style. However, it's pretty clear that Dooku only really showed it to him as a method of control, since he described Quinlan's blade work as sloppy. The most unorthodox technique in Vos's bag of tricks was his skills in Vapad, a variation on a 7th form created by Miss Windu. Vapad allows its user to create a superconducting loop of energy between the user and an opponent, letting the user feed off the aggression of their opponent. A very dangerous style to use as it goes very close to the dark side. While Quinlan never mastered the form, he was reasonably successful in his own right. During his final duel with Sora Bolt, both combatants used Vapad against one another, and Quinlan emerged the victor, having defeated the darkness within himself and not allowing it to corrupt him as it had Bolt. All in all, Quinlan was a talented duelist, and while he wasn't an absolute master, he was still a master in his own right, and only the very best could defeat him. Both combatants are very skilled duelists. However, while Sharad is incredibly versatile thanks to his specialization in Naiman, Quinlan has those traits thanks to his skills in multiple fighting forms, as well as his skills in Vapad. And while he isn't a master of the form, he is proficient enough with it for it to be more than an effective fighting method, and would no doubt prove useful against Hett's aggressive approach. Quinlan Vos gets the edge as a martial artist and lightsaber duelist, though it is only a slight edge, as Hett is more than capable. While his power in the Force didn't reach its peak until he became a Sith Lord, Sharad Hett was still a capable Force wielder with considerable levels of natural talent. He was capable of basic physical augmentation, allowing for superhuman feats such as blast deflection and superhuman acrobatics. He backed up this with some use of Dark Rage, which would ultimately boost his physical capabilities even further. His telepathic skills were capable, though they appeared to be limited to the basic mind trick. His telekinetic skills were considerable, ranging from basic force pushes to use of the saber throw to strike down targets from a distance. On the whole, while the scope of Sharad's powers were limited, he was far from incapable. Quinlan Vos lived and trained as a Jedi Guardian, meaning he preferred lightsaber combat over his studies of the Force. Despite this, Vos was still a skilled and powerful Force wielder. He was capable of basic physical augmentation, allowing for superhuman feats such as blast deflection and force-assisted acrobatics. His telepathic skills were capable, ranging from the basic mind trick to the rare beast trick ability, a notable example being when he used it to tame a wild serpent on Kashyyyk and commanded it to attack pursuing clones. He was also capable of cloaking his Force signature, which he would use in many of his undercover missions. Vos's telekinetic skills were considerable, and he has demonstrated a surprising level of magnitude, and he has even been known to rip through the Force shields of opposing Force wielders, and has even used the Force choke technique to great effect. However, his defense against telekinesis was spotty at best, as he has repeatedly had his defenses beaten. However, this has only been shown to be the case with Dooku and Volfe Kako, two masterful level Force wielders whose strength in the Force greatly outstripped Vos's own, as well as Thom and Sora Bolt, who both had a detailed knowledge of Vos's abilities. Vos was even capable of Force Lightning, even using it against Volfe Kako in combat. However, due to his infrequent use, he remained a novice with this power, though it can still be useful for staggering his opponents should he manage to hit them with it. Both combatants are relatively skilled combative Force wielders. However, while they both appear to use very straightforward methods, Vos completely outstrips Hett in terms of magnitude. While Vos's novice skills in Force Lightning can be absorbed by Hett's lightsabers, it does still have the potential to stagger Hett and provide Quinn with an advantage should he hit him with it. As Grey Jedi 91 pointed out, just because a combatant may be able to defend themselves against a certain attack doesn't mean they will always succeed. I give Quinlan Vos the edge as a Force wielder. Sharad Hett wielded two very standard lightsabers, one from his father and one of his own, both which used a single green Adagan crystal as the focusing lenses. Quinlan Vos wielded a standard lightsaber with a green Adagan crystal as the focusing lens, though that is really all that can be said about it, as it doesn't really provide any notable advantages. This one's easy to call. Dual blades provide more options in battle. Sharad Hett gets the edge in weaponry. Both combatants are very skilled duelists and force wielders in their own right. However, while Sharad is skilled with his use of dual blades and force abilities, Vos shows more variety and magnitude, surprisingly considering how powerful Hett becomes later in his life. While Quinlan isn't a master of Vaporpad and doesn't have a massively high level of personal aggression, he can still channel the aggression of his opponents, which would certainly prove useful against the Tusken Jedi, as he often fights aggressively, as well as letting his anger occasionally get the better of him. Of course, this isn't enough to decide victory alone for Vos, since their methods are considerably similar. However, Vos's real advantage is the magnitude in his combative applications of the Force. While he is a novice with Force lightning, it still has the potential to stagger Sharad if he manages to hit him with it. Also, his applications of telekinesis clearly outstrip Hett's. This fight would almost certainly start out as a pure lightsaber duel, and the pair would stand evenly matched, both gaining and losing advantages in the fight. However, Hett's mounting frustration would lead to more and more slip-ups, leaving openings for Vos to exploit, as well as fueling Quinlan's use of Vaporpad. Before he could react, Quinlan would expose a defensive lapse in Hett's technique, allowing him to disarm and defeat his overly aggressive opponent. I declare Quinlan Vos, the Grey Jedi, the victor. Well, YouTube, thanks very much for watching my first Star Wars Versus video. This is the first of many more to come. I hope the quality was good enough for a first attempt. As always, this is just my opinion, no one else's. This is just made purely for fun. If you have any comments or criticisms, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I shall endeavour to reply to as many of you as I can. However, I will ask that you keep things civil. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.